4 o'clock. Shall we get started? All right. Welcome, everybody. It is the Public Works and Transportation Committee meeting of March 20th. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I do have a motion to adopt the minutes of February 21st. Second? Yeah. I'm assuming there's a seconder? Yeah. Okay, Cash is there. Okay. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? No one on board? Okay. Okay, number 1 on the list is the e-scooter pilot project update. And we have Sonelia Hingori updating us on this. So,
Thank you, Madam Chair. Nothing further to add to the report, and staff are available to answer questions.
okay, Councillor Wolf.
Thank you. Through the chair to staff, just a couple questions on this. So we received some correspondence from the public. I think the furthest one back I have is 2021. And there was some concern with the location of where they were and that people were tripping over these devices that were left on the sidewalks. And then staff's response was that they were going to potentially move them. Have any of the original locations of the scooters and bikes been relocated?
Through the chair to Councillor Wolf, yes, absolutely. We work with Lime very closely, and it's an evolution in terms of the locations. These are temporary stations, and if issues arise, they are relocated to address any on-site issues.
Okay. Thank you for that. I read in the report that since the inception of this pilot program, there's only been 2 helmet tickets. Last night, right by the Oval, late at night, 3 young boys were on the Lime scooters going in front of me, weaving where traffic would be coming shortly after them. All of them had their helmets attached to the scooter. None were wearing them. And I know on our page 20, it says that the RCMP could provide enforcement effort updates. And I assume that's also the same in a memo that we received a couple years ago, where this is the positive ticketing program approach. Could we get that update from either you or RCMP?
Through the chair, certainly I can take that back to RCMP staff to provide you the requested information.
Okay. I'd kind of like to know how many positive enforcement efforts have occurred related to helmets. To see that only 2 people have actually been ticketed, were they people who had already received the positive enforcement technique and they were recorded that they received this and then were caught again not using it? Like, I'd just like to know what is that threshold where someone does receive the ticket for helmet non-compliance. And and then just some comments. I remember supporting this early on, and to see it rise to having 200 devices, scooters and bikes, 120,000 trips with 20 injury, health-related incidents, which I believe were listed as mostly minor. So I'm definitely in support of continuing on with this, as this is only a small fraction of the e-bike and e-scooters that are on our roads. Many of them are not in the Lime, under the Lime program, but it's people's own personal devices that can go a lot faster than these ones. And I also appreciate the city's approach with finding kind of compliance on where people can use them. In regards to roads that have bike lanes on the side or multi-use pathways, but the issues have risen when they're used on sidewalks where they can not be seen from people going in and out of driveways. Thank you.
That's great. Councillor Heat, online, you have a question?
Yes, I've got a couple of comments. Councillor Wolf and I must have seen the same 3 kids in black hoodies with their helmets on their scooters right by the Oval. I did see them too. And Councillor Wolf also mentioned a couple things I have. And let's just talk about the Lime scooters at the outset. The problem is with the locations, especially when we look around the city center area, they're very close to the sidewalks and usually at intersections. And I know some of the locations we've kind of moved them towards the private property, the buildings a lot more, which is ideal. The ones that we have on our public spaces, on our sidewalks, we really have to look at it closely and determine whether we want to keep them there or there's a better location for them. Because when they're near the sidewalks, when you have the possibility of people tripping over them, like we've indicated previously, that is a concern. So I would really like to see us look at the locations that we actually have the bulk of these right now and determine whether or not we can better situate them at those particular locations. I have to tell you, and going away from Lime for a sec, for the rest of this conversation, the enforcement aspects of these scooters is troubling to me. When I see these stats that only show 2 helmet related tickets with response to this, is we really got to take a harder look at how we deal with people that are required by provincial legislation to wear helmets, whether they're riding their bikes or they are on these types of devices. And I think the conversations that we need to have, not only from a prevention education point of view, as indicated, but certainly from an enforcement point of view, because we've got to get a handle on this, because the traumatic injuries that are caused when someone falls off one of these devices, and I know the stats don't actually show it right now, but in my past experience, I've seen those injuries that are caused. So whatever we can do to not only increase the prevention side of it through education, but we're going to have to really look at how we're going to enforce these e-transportation devices and our bicycle helmet laws here in the province of British Columbia. I'm concerned, and I understand we don't keep an actual stat. I don't think there's any way of garnishing the stat, is how we deal with conflict with pedestrians or with vehicles. And can you tell me, do we keep anything other than some anecdotal information or a complaint we may get once in a while?
Through the chair, no, we collect information through our shared service provider on the private end of things, the scooters. That data is unavailable. It's something that the province, as part of their next phase of the pilot program, is working directly with ICBC to gather that collision data as part of the extension, as well as health authorities regarding the safety aspects for these devices.
Well, let's see if we can also get to them with some of the prevention and education that's required in order to deal with this. It would be good since they're the ones that are advocating for the trial of this. And I agree, let's keep moving in this direction, but let's make sure that the resources are in place from those legislative bodies that have control over how we deal with these issues in our public spaces. The other question I have is related to what the actual age limit for someone to ride around on these e-scooters. Not necessarily Lime, it could be their own e-scooters or whatever. What is the age limit? Are we talking about a 16-year-old? Or are we talking about someone much younger that can ride these e-scooters on public spaces, in public spaces?
Through the chair to Councillor Heed, the minimum age to ride an e-scooter is 16 years old. That is the same as for e-bicycles.
Again, I have some difficulty with that because I can see several people that are under the age of 16 based on my visualization of what their age may be that are riding around these scooters. So I think that's something we need to pay attention to. I think if we do this right from the outset, I think we're 3 or 4 years into the pilot, and we're going with an additional 3 or 4 years with the increase throughout the province of British Columbia. I think the more we can get involved in some of the aspects of ensuring that they're appropriately used within our city, I think we're going to be a lot better. The RCMP did a very good video last year after we had a discussion with respect to these scooters on our roadways, and it would be great to see some collective effort to make sure that we're dealing with this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Heed. And we have Councillor Andy Hobbs.
Thanks, and through the chair, thanks for the report. I'm not a member of the committee, but just a couple thoughts. One, just with regard to enforcement, this is something we're never going to enforce our way through. It's just impossible to keep up with the volume. Similar to traffic issues, we're looking for voluntary compliance and education, so I think that's the priority, although some enforcement is always helpful. Just with the advocacy groups and the comments on page 19, you've got the 4 bullets there, and I wonder, do we track, or actually I shouldn't say advocacy groups, that's part of the question, the responses we got on Let's Talk Richmond. When you look at the number, I'm curious, do we know whether these are people who live in Richmond, or, because the concern I have, not just with this issue, but with a lot of issues, you have advocacy groups who are very effective on whatever the issue might be, and it's possible to, have your membership and your supporters participate in the process. So do we have any idea whether these are Richmond residents or who they are?
Through the chair to Councillor Hobbs, that was a question of our Let's Talk Richmond survey, and the majority of respondents do live in Richmond.
Okay, that's good to know. One other thing that I've come across lately is what other cities are doing. And do you know anything about what Paris was doing with regard to e-scooters? And do you have a quick comment on that? Because I read something about it and I'm not sure if what I read was correct.
Through the chair to Councillor Hobbs, yes, I do have information about their e-scooter system that is no longer in service with respect to the shared vendors. It was very different.
Okay.
Our system is nowhere near the scale and magnitude that service was. To put it in context, in 1 year, they had over 1 million rides. We've had 100,000 trips since the launch of our e-scooter service. They also had less regulations with respect to the number of service providers, and they also did not define service areas or parking zones where these devices had to be picked up and dropped off. It was just a free-for-all, if you will, and very different from the approach that the city is taking with our program.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, because I didn't know those details. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So just to be clear, when somebody rents a Lime scooter, aren't they supposed to take a picture of themselves wearing the helmet and then submit it? Wasn't there a condition such as that?
Through the chair, Madam Chair, yes, absolutely. And it's something based on today's feedback from committee that we will engage Lime about to see if there's other measures that they can put in. But once the photo is taken, the rider could change their mind about wearing the helmet. So education, as identified in the report, is a large part of staff's efforts around encouraging compliance with the rules for these devices and other cycling and electric mobility devices as well.
Okay, and I wanted to ask about education. We do things online and whatnot, but the big one for me was signs. And I understand that we've improved the signage, particularly on the railway corridor. Is that true?
Madam Chair, that's right. Working with the Parks Department, we've added additional signage on the Railway Greenway. These are quite large so that there is visibility on the approaches from distance back from the signs, and those are located at every major intersection along that corridor. And since they've been implemented last August, we haven't received any complaints about excessive speeds on that facility, and working with park staff to deploy even more locations over the summer.
Perfect. I'd appreciate it if you'd send a sample of those signs and the size and details to all of council, because I think it's important that the rest of council also hear what the steps have been taken to try to improve safety for e-scooters. So I'd appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then after hearing the conversation here, I wonder if we shouldn't add a number 3. Given that this is a 4-year program, why don't we get yearly safety and enforcement review from staff? Is that a friendly amendment? Councillor Hobbs? Okay, you're not here. Councillor Wolf? Councillor Heed? Councillor Liu? Any problems with that? I'm going to assume that is okay, since we've got a thumbs up. Okay, so let's add that, and then all those in favor? And we have Councillor Heed and Councillor Liu online, and I understand they have voted positively. All right, thank you very much. Okay, number 2 on the list, Engineering and Public Works. The water conservation related to single-pass cooling systems. I had never heard of single-pass cooling systems until I read this report. So would you like to fill us in on what this is all about?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have nothing further to add to the report. This is a report to recommend council endorsement in order to move forward with further public engagement to take the next steps with these systems.
Yeah, so for, Councillor Michael Wolf, would you like to ask a question?
Sure thing. A couple short questions. One is to go to the recirculating types, recirculating water systems. Do those require chemical additives typically at all in the water?
Through the chair to Councillor Wolf, that I am not too sure about, but that kind of information we will explore and investigate more on as we engage the public.
Okay, yeah, I asked that as I know there's the balance here, you're saving water or creating more chemicals that will have to be released, accidentally put into the places where they shouldn't go, and the concern on the environment and human health with that factoring in. And then the only other question I have was I assume that a single pass or only one time through was like the conventional style for many of these things, like air conditioning units and heat pumps. Was there like a year where you could say that before that, that's the way it was done, after that year, they went away from that? Like how far back was this transition?
Through the chair to Councillor Wolf, my rough estimate would be about 10 years.
Oh, okay. All right, and then actually, can I just follow up on more? Is there an obvious system or something that those of us in City Hall could look at and say, there's a single pass system right there? Is there something in this building that would follow that?
Through the chair to Councillor Wolf, not that I am aware of. However, as we go through the investigation, we'll get more information on the current inventory that's in the city.
Great, yeah, I fully endorse this, thanks. Great.
I did a little research on this with staff and thank them for taking the time to talk with me. Apparently, the existing systems use 1,600 cubic meters of water a year, and the new system would be air-driven. So that's something different. Now, the regional district and City of Vancouver have actually banned the current systems and are the single pass cooling systems and are going for the air-cooled systems. So it's very complicated, but I understand that the cost of putting the new system in can actually save $3,000 a year, and the payback is 8 to 12 years. So it's certainly worth looking at, but we're not voting today on banning the current single-pass cooling systems. We're just voting to do more work on this and get more consultation, given that commercial operators in the public have actually asked us for more information and how it would be permitted down the road. So this is just the first step. Lots more information to come. So those seconded, and all those in favor? Everybody's good online, so that is passed. Number 3 is the award of contract for security guard services. And the motion is that it be awarded to British Columbia Corp of Commissionaires for a 3-year term, and the estimated value is $1.351 million. Do we have anything to add, Mr. Lee?
Madam Chair, nothing else to add. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay. So again, did some homework on this, and I was interested in why the commissionaires were chosen. Well, they're highly trained ex-retired military or RCMP officers, and they would be paid a living wage, so that's better than what we're doing right now. And they're not really saving us any money, even though they're nonprofit, but they are located currently in Metro Vancouver and Kelowna, and from what staff have told me, they've had very good service from the commissionaires. So there's a transition period once this is voted on, and that has been also set up by staff. So if there aren't any questions, a motion to accept and seconded. All those in favor, again online, so that's passed. Number 4 is the award of contract for on-call plumbing contractor services. And it's going to go to 3 different companies, Baza Ventures, Pacific Mechanical, and Cobing Building Solutions. Did you have anything to add on this, Mr. Lee?
Madam Chair, nothing further to add. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay, does anybody have any questions on this contract? I was originally confused because of the wording on PW 33. It actually said that we're going to go from 1 vendor to 3, that we're going to have a roster, but we actually currently have 3 now. So just the way that was worded, in case anyone's confused, we're going from 3 to 3. So really no big change. All right, all those in favor? Those opposed? Everybody's good online? Perfect. All right, number 5 on the solid waste recycling regulation, bylaw 6803, an amendment to the bylaw, which basically cancels the commercial pilot project for recycling. And did you have anything to add, Ms. Nishi?
Madam Chair, nothing to add. Happy to take any questions.
All right, Councillor Wolf, you have a question?
Yes, through the chair and the staff, just a couple of questions. So I understand because of the end of that pilot, we're removing it, but do we not at the same time need to add like Schedule A, Schedule B for the business education and advisory program?
Through the chair to Councillor Wolf, there is no fee associated with the Business and Education Advisory Program.
Okay, thanks. So then if I look on our page PWT 41 at the bottom of the table of fees, the bottom one there is non-compliant large item collection fee, $75. So if this pilot is done and under the new advisory program, somebody is non-compliant with large items that require it to be picked up by the city, do we not have a fee then for that?
Through the chair to Councillor Wolf, the large item collection fee is only for residential properties that have that service. Sorry.
Okay, then if it is a commercial site and they have a large item next to their building and it blocks access or something for fire trucks and we go in there and pick it up and remove it, there's no way we can attach a fee to that service?
To Councillor Wolf, we currently don't remove any items, large items, illegally dumped items, I think maybe we're speaking of, from private property. It would be up to the business owner or the property owner to remove that item. We don't provide that service. If it is on public property, we do remove that. As a part of the Business Education and Advisory Program, we are going to have a section that focuses on illegal dumping because that was identified through the review, that is an issue businesses in Richmond are dealing with. So we will have tips and resources that they can utilize there.
Okay, thank you.
We have a seconder for the motion. Thank you, Councillor Wolf, and those online are once again voting yes. We are good. That is passed. That leaves us to managers' reports. Okay.
Madam Chair, I'll be providing an update on the Steveston Highway multi-use pathway. So the first section, which is between Shell Road and Number 4 Road, that is nearing completion. It has been open to traffic to both lanes. The multi-use pathway has been paved and will be scheduled to be open to the public by the end of the month. Currently, construction is happening in the next section between Number 4 Road and Mortfield, and that section is anticipated to be completed for the construction in early summer.
And could you speak a little bit about the vegetation that will be planted along the roadway?
Yes, Madam Chair, there's going to be some trees in some areas and a grass boulevard along most of the stretches of this multi-use pathway.
All right, will cutting of the grass require blocking traffic, or will we be able to do it off of the multi-use pathway?
There will be grass cutting through the pathway, and then we can have that conversation with Parks, but some of that may be accessed through smaller machinery, hand weed eaters, mowing.
Okay, it'd be nice not to stop the traffic. Okay, Councillor Wolf has a question.
Yes, thanks for this update. Do you happen to know if staff have noticed a large number of tires hitting the curb? As there was a lot of concern early on that the width of the lanes were going to cause vehicles to run out of space?
Through the chair to Councillor Wolf, we have not been made aware of any of that issues to date.
Okay, thanks.
Was there any other updates you wanted to volunteer?
That's it.
Okay, just I wanted to ask for an update regarding the overpass construction at Steveston Highway and Highway 99.
Madam Chair, that work is being done through the province. The recent updates are that there's a loop ramp that changes some of the traffic patterns that returns it to the regular function. Certainly the province is again working and will need to adjust some of their traffic patterns as that work progresses, as they demolish one of the existing overpasses.
Yeah, I saw the big reader board sign reminding people to take the clover leaf, that we're now not making the left turn, but that will change down the road back and forth. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, good. Are there any other managers' reports? Okay. Oh, Councillor Wolf has another question.
Thank you. Yeah, this is in regards to something that hasn't been mentioned yet at the meeting, but I thought this might be the place to just ask. So at the end of February, there was a Richmond News article about Mitchell School, and the school district land was selling 173 square meters to the city. And there was some mature trees that are going to be removed in the process to expand the intersection at 5 Road and Cambie. The school board trustees had made a motion to increase the amount of tree replacement to a 3-to-1 ratio for the trees that will be lost. I'm a little bit confused about that, because if the land is transferred to the city and then the city removes the trees, the city does not necessarily have to follow. We're exempt from that, our own bylaw. Or am I wrong that the school district has to remove the trees and then the land gets given to the city? So it was unclear in the news article and the trustees I've spoken to on this. And then also, if staff are able to now or in a memo, speak to the tree replacement plan for the city's land in this. Thanks.
Through the chair to Councillor Wolf, I don't have the exact details of the tree replacement, but again, that could be provided through a memo to council.
Okay, thanks. That's all.
All right, well, thank you very much. I don't see any other business, so I'll call for adjournment. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you.